Welcome back to another splendiferous episode of the Jacob Wayne Show. I am Jacob Wayne, and with me as always is the lovely and cantankerous Kellen Gibbons.
Yay. The Jacob
How you
Wayne
doing?
Show. I am doing good. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. We missed last week due to Thanksgiving. It's just one of those types of weeks where it's kind of hard to fit this sort of thing in. What did you do with your week?
Oh, not much, which is how the Thanksgiving should be done. Just had
Especially this year.
Yep, hung out with the household. We have a pretty big household group, but it is a household group, so just hung out with them. Went into a turkey coma. I'm sure everybody else did, so nobody was gonna listen anyways. I'm sure everybody was just napping off the turkey.
Nice. What's that chemical in turkey again?
It's called tryptophan.
Tryptophan, that's right.
But apparently that doesn't actually make you sleepy. It's just eating a bunch.
Yeah, that's what I had heard too, but I like to believe in the tryptophan.
That's like some weird
it's like Santa Claus.
Yeah. And it's like finding a little hidden like nugget, a little surprise in your food, like, ooh, this one makes you sleepy. It's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't there more exciting side effects to food? It happens in all the video games.
Alice in Wonderland, all that.
Guess that's true. I mean,
go ahead.
I was gonna say my mom always told me that if I drank her Crystal Light, it would stunt my growth. That's kind of like the Alice in Wonderland thing, I guess. But I think she just didn't want me drinking her Crystal Light.
My mom said the same thing about putting on her makeup. It was weird.
Huh. Well, you just kept stealing the good shit.
Yep. But, last week we were going to try to do a Thanksgiving episode and have my roommate Shockey and our buddy Neil on, because last year that was kind of the crazy story of him having to get his appendix out early in the morning, the day of Thanksgiving, like at 3 a.m. or something like that.
Yeah.
I still think we should have them on to tell that story. We might even have to wait until next year, but I guess that was kind of a thing I was noticing, is that was such a crazy story, but this was almost an even weirder Thanksgiving due to the COVID-19.
Yeah, it was pretty strange.
Yeah, we had a friend over, and it was just me, Shockey, and his friend, and he got an air fryer, which I hear is all the rage right now, and they made a bunch of stuff because I don't really like cooking. So I just did a couple like house chores around, and while they did that, and we had a pretty traditional meal, but since we had the air fryer and it isn't as big as the oven, we decided to do lamb steaks instead, and that's a really good replacement for turkey if you can't get turkey for your Thanksgiving.
Yeah. That sounds delicious. I love lamb.
Yeah. So it was a very lovely Thanksgiving, and we had a nice low-key one, and yeah, I'm excited for hopefully next year it can be more like coming to visit the family and do kind of a bigger thing. But I suppose we're kind of just winging it on this episode, and we might as well get the grim news out of the way since we are talking about Thanksgiving and why it was all low-key. I was just looking at an article today on Reuters, or however you say that site. And the headline is, Coronavirus claims 1.5 million lives globally, with 10,000 dying each day.
Yep.
So, over 1.5 million people have lost their lives due to COVID-19, with one death reported every 9 seconds on a weekly average.
Oh boy.
So, and I just noticed, I think it was a day or two ago, we had hit our peak here in the United States. It was around 2,700 deaths in one day.
And we just broke that again today.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
yeah.
it's still raging, and we were out and about today. Like, man, we should get some breakfast. Shockey was able to get his day off of work, so we're like, okay, let's go get some breakfast. And then most restaurants were shut down. They had outdoor seating, but nobody was sitting inside.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of one of those reminders, like we're sitting out there kind of cold, eating our breakfast after we finally settled on a spot, and it was like, wow, this winter's gonna be kind of rough. So
Yeah, not gonna be going out much. Probably gonna be getting a lot of to-goes.
yeah, and I mean that was what we were noticing is because we have definitely ordered in a lot, anyways, but it's pretty expensive, and you want to keep the restaurants alive. So maybe not as much ordering delivery, but definitely maybe a lot of takeout and a lot of cooking and
Yep,
soups, I guess. But
indeed.
yeah, it'll be a kind of a rough winter. I don't know. How is it in Utah?
It's about the same. I mean, people are still just like insisting that it's not a big deal. Just like a lot of people are just like, no, it's fine. It's not. It's just like the flu, and the death rate's not going up is one thing I keep hearing, which is not true, and that's a really hard thing to judge. Like why, like while the disease is like raging, like we're not going to
Mm-hmm.
know the death rate of right now for a couple of weeks, really, So,
Right.
like, it is going up. Like, I don't even know what they're talking about. So, yeah,
I think
that's
what that might be is I think I read something like that where the amount of people infected has skyrocketed, but I guess the percentage of that has gone down a bit. Maybe. But like
but
that
obviously
being
the
said,
deaths
it's
are
like
going up. Yeah.
yeah, so it's kind of a weird arbitrary thing and I mean that's definitely part of it. I was talking about it with Shockey as well because he's like one of the only people I get to talk to in this day and age.
Woo.
And we were talking about how yeah, people are definitely getting the pandemic fatigue and they're just ready to get back to normal. And the people that choose not to wear masks, like they're worried about their freedom and all that stuff. But it's just like, kind of like, do you think we're not tired of this shit as well? Like, we're trying to
Yeah.
wear the masks so we can get this over with.
If we just do it, we could get pretty much back to normal, just have to wear masks. And now that we've been wearing them all this time and you see
Mm-hmm.
all the videos of people breathing and stuff, it's like maybe we should keep them around. It's not a bad idea, or especially in flu season, to just keep doing that. Really, people hate them so much, but it's like it's actually a good idea.
Yeah, I
Like
probably
it could
will wear
knock.
them more often, even if stuff gets kind of back to normal. Like in
Yeah,
the wintertime, just like I'll wear a mask more often.
if you're feeling at all sick, throw one on. Like that's be
Yeah.
awesome. People, we could make the flu not a thing here. Everybody always says the COVID's just like the flu, and it's like, well, yeah. Now that we're talking about that, why don't we make that better too?
Well, and when I lived in China, you would definitely see a lot more people wearing masks. This is back in 2013, and that was more for the purpose of like pollution. And I remember walking around thinking like, oh, that's kind of weird, like everybody wearing masks so much. So I've definitely changed my tune on it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's the science. Gee whiz, who would have thunk it, right? Makes sense.
Yeah.
But
The fun thing about
I know,
science,
yeah,
you know what I was gonna say.
yeah. I mean, I know it's a gigantic democratic hoax and everything, but that being considered, seems like other countries like Germany and Taiwan are doing a really good job of handling this democratic hoax.
Yeah.
Just like the great democratic hoax of rigging the election, but still not getting rid of Mitch McConnell. Their
Hmm.
hoaxes just don't work that well.
Nope.
So we can find our way out of this. But
So
I just wanted to load that up front because I think if you come back and listen to this episode, what episode are we on? By the way, is it 13?
13. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Um, but yeah, it's like people come back and listen to it, and it'll be a timestamp. They'll be like, "Holy shit, that's when COVID was raging," and hopefully this episode is like one of the worst ones, or hopefully is the worst it's
Yeah,
been.
that would be nice.
And then we'll get this vaccine, get it going, and take it in front of anti-vaxxer moms and make them upset. I'm excited.
Yeah.
So with
So
that, we will just move on to some lighter, more fun news. I
we
figured we
still
could just hit all the media stuff.
yeah say we could do the like slight like also bad news, but on a different note.
Okay, let's get all the bad news out of the way.
Yep. You go ahead. You know more about it than me.
Which well, I'm not sure what we're talking about.
Well, didn't you say Sharon from?
Oh, that is sad news, but she passed away a while ago.
Oh, okay.
But we'll get into music. I was just wanted to shout out a new release for Sharon Jones and the Dap-Tones. Sharon Jones, she passed away in 2016. Another
Oh,
great
okay.
year.
Yeah, I remember that one.
But they just released a posthumous covers album. And she does covers of Janet Jackson and Prince and some others. And I just came across that today, so I wanted to shout it out. It's called Just Dropped In to See What Condition My Rendition Was In.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm working my way through it, and Sharon Jones is just a wonderful soul singer. And if you've never listened to her, just dive into her records because she's a wonderful singer.
Oh yeah, legend.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing she does My Condition. She does that song. I
Let's
hope.
take a look. I'm still remembering all of it. Yep, she does do that.
Nice. That's a
She
good song.
does Signed, Sealed, Delivered.
Nice.
Um, some of the other ones are a little more, you know, vague songs I don't know very well, but it's still a really great record. So I highly recommend it. You got any new records on your docket?
Yeah, I've actually been listening to two that I just barely found out about. I'm not sure when they came out. I think they're pretty recent. So one of my favorite old musicians, John Hartford,
Mm-hmm.
he helped with the music on "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou." And he died a couple of years after that movie came out. So I think it's been 20 years since he died now, which is crazy
Okay.
that that movie came
Yeah.
out.
It was like 99 or something.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yep, it's been about that long. So he's like been one of my favorite musicians. He changed, he kind of invented a new genre of bluegrass, and he's just awesome. Cool banjo player and fiddler. So yeah, he really liked fiddle tunes. He really liked the old fiddle songs. And so he learned a bunch of them, and he knew them all by name. Apparently, was just a walking encyclopedia of fiddle tunes, and he also
Mm.
wrote a bunch. So he just wrote them down in this journal and kept them in his desk. So when he died, his family went through them and was like, "Whoa, these have never been, you know, been seen by anybody else." So they took
Mm-hmm.
like excerpts from his journal, like little poems he wrote, and just a little kind of history about him, and the actual music, like the handwritten music, and they made a book out of it. And I bought that, and it also came with a CD of like a bunch of different artists that knew him or just like his music. They got a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of different people to pick their favorite fiddle tune and record it their way. And there's no
Okay.
chords on them; it's just the melody. And yeah, there's some really cool stuff on there. So that's called the John Hartford Fiddle Tune Project. So that's a cool album. Some really nice little fiddle tunes on there. And then,
So let's go back just a little bit. As you know, and I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before, I'm still wrapping my head around the genre of bluegrass.
mm-hmm.
You said that he kind of invented a new genre of bluegrass. Do you mind delving into that a little bit?
Not at all. So people call it newgrass, is what
Oh,
some
okay.
people call it, but I wouldn't. I don't know. That
I've heard the term, but
immediately turns
he's the
people.
guy that helped with that.
Yeah, he's immediately that term turns some people off, but if they should not be turned off by that, because it's
It's
gonna make
like
him not listen to
new
John
metal.
Hartford.
It was like a new
Yeah,
style of doing it, and then is new with the NU with the two dots above it, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
People
this
just
is
don't like that.
just normal new. So that might help.
Oh, okay. But yeah, they probably wouldn't do the whole fancy U double dot thing.
No, that'd be weird.
We're not getting new with the new word. We're just getting new grass.
Yeah, and basically he really just mixed it with like a little more jazz and kind of folk elements. Like there's some of the songs are a little funky, and the chords are a little more involved. There's some weird
So the
time
bassist has a
signatures.
little more to do.
Yeah, he does a little more riffing instead of just boom, 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 boom.
Right.
Gets to do some licks. And yeah,
Which,
I definitely recommend his album, Steam Powered Aeroplane. Everybody on that album just is killer. It's a great album.
okay. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, because you're the aficionado. Um, that was always the thing that I've noticed about bluegrass is I'm a bassist, and the boom, 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 boom. I've learned to accept it more because as I've listened to older bluegrass stuff, I realize that it's taking on a lot of the role of percussion almost. It's just keeping
Exactly.
the beat of everything going, and so yeah, you need to have something just holding it down.
Yeah, it's like the kick
But
drum.
yeah, and like, don't some people kind of have like while they're bass player, they have like a little kick drum thing that they play too, just with their foot, or is that just something I saw once?
That is a thing. That's like a little more common among like guitar players with no bass player to do that to kind of fill in that same
Okay,
spot. That's mostly who I see is like solo guitar players will have a little kickbox.
yeah.
I also played in a dance band that the fiddle player used one of those to keep a
Okay.
good drop beat going.
Yeah, so I mean, I've definitely come to appreciate the role of that more. I'm definitely a big fan of a busy bass, so
Yeah,
I tend to like the new grass stuff.
yeah, I
And
think you'd enjoy this album.
yeah, so
It's his like his album. The fiddle tune one is really good, but it's more of the traditional bass, and it's really just a nice. It's just all really tasty. The Newgrass
hmm
album is kind of more exploratory and stuff, and still fantastic. But the fiddle tune album is just if you need some nice background bluegrass, pretty fiddle music. There you go. It's
yeah.
awesome. And
Well,
all
and
his
some. Oh, go ahead.
say all his tunes are pretty like traditional sounding. They're all really just pretty and not too far off from some other traditional fiddle tunes. So they don't. Yeah, just nothing out there like on his actual albums he released.
Then there's one that I had introduced to me was Billy Strings. Is
Yeah,
he
he's
new
a
grass or is he more like sight grass or something else?
yeah, he's I'd say he's a type of newgrass, but yeah, he's definitely taken some of the John Hartford stuff. Like I'll bet he covers some John Hartford tunes, and yeah, he's kind of the new generation. I would say he is bringing in the effects, which is like
Yeah.
just unheard of. Like I can't believe. I'm sure a lot of them don't like it. Like the hardcore bluegrass fans, like the old dudes, get all kind of touchy about that, and I'm sure a lot of them are not a fan of his effects pedal usage.
Well, I've worked with some bluegrass heads, and one of them was the guy who showed me Billy Strings. Like, you might like this because you like all the effects laden stuff. And I was like, yeah, some of it's really tasty, and the note choice seemed a little odd to me from what I usually hear. And then, there's a couple other guys that are like,
Yeah,
it's like, it's not really my thing. But
yeah.
let me see if I can find it real quick. They did recommend. So, what I have these friends of mine do, since bluegrass is still out of my wheelhouse, it's not my favorite genre, but I'm trying to learn more about it and get more into it. Let me see if I could find this. But if you could, while I'm searching for it, name one bluegrass album that's like a classic. It's like old school bluegrass, and it's like if you're into bluegrass, that's the one you need to hear.
Oh, like a classic one that's still not like vintage, but it's pretty getting odd in years now. But Del McCurry, "It's Just the Night." I'd say that's a one that's just good old album. Every single song is awesome. I love that album.
Yeah, that's on here.
There you
I'm
go.
looking at this list. There's the Del McCurry Band, It's Just the Night. John Hartford,
Oh, this is the
Aeroplane
one
is
I
on
gave you.
there.
There you
Yeah,
go.
there is a lot of these of you in here. So I'm trying to find one. Uh, Steve Earle, well, and the Del McCurry, The Mountain.
Yeah. So he kind of came over from the country world to do a bluegrass album. It's got some good stuff on it.
Okay, here's one. The infamous String Dusters.
Yeah, they're cool. They're kind of a jam bluegrass band.
Okay.
So I've actually jammed with them. They came and played in Logan, and they came over to a band I was in, the guitar player at the time. We all hung out
Mm-hmm.
and jammed, and then when we went on tour to Nashville, we stayed at their sound guy's house. So I kind of
Well, there you
know
go.
them. They're great band. Like I like their albums too, but you got to see those guys live if you ever get the chance. They're awesome.
Okay. And that is actually kind of a funny thing is talking to you and my other friends. They yeah, they you actually get the opportunity to meet some of these guys that are like highly respected, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, they usually like if you go to a festival, there's a chance that band will be like hosting a jam on another day or something. So you get to go
Mm-hmm.
hang out with them. That's actually how I met your buddies. They were the band at a bluegrass festival, and I was at the jam they were at. And I was like, oh, what up?
Well, I suppose I should mention them. They're the two members of Woodbelly here in Colorado,
Yeah,
and they do some pretty good bluegrass stuff, and they're kind of up and coming around here.
like I don't know what the chances are, but we were just chatting, and I was like, yeah, I got some friends in Fort Collins. And they were like, oh yeah, really, that's cool. I was like, yeah, my buddy Shockey lives down there. And they were like, what,
Mm-hmm.
Shockey? So
Mm-hmm.
of all the chances, somehow he was known.
Indeed. Well, everybody knows Shockey. We know this.
That's true.
Everybody knows him.
Yep.
And I guess one other band, two other bands I'll throw out before we move on is J.D. Crowe and the New South. Heard of that?
Yeah, no JD Crow. Yep.
And Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
Oh, so that album, by the Will the Circle Be Unbroken, is authentic. The people who like started bluegrass, like not Bill Monroe, who's technically the father. I don't think he's on that album, but all the other
Mm-hmm.
guys from that time, like all the first legends of bluegrass are on it. Earl Scruggs, Mother Maybelle Carter, some amazing musicians, and every song is a different lineup. So it's worth listening to that whole album. There's some awesome stuff on it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I did have one more on John Hartford before we move on from that, real quick.
Sure.
Along with this fiddle tune project, a bunch of other groups, including the infamous String Dusters, got together and recorded a tribute album with just a bunch of
Hmm.
his songs from all across his years. That's also just really cool. It's cool to hear all those songs reimagined and see which ones people picked. Like the opening track is the title track. It's called "On the Road," which is he did solo with just him and banjo singing, and he kind of tap dances too. So he like plays percussion with his feet on his solo stuff. It's really cool. But this is like
Hmm.
a full band with Sam Bush, who's a legendary mandolinist, and his
Mm-hmm.
band, and they do it. And it's in 5/4, and it's this rockin' bluegrass version, and it's sweet. That so on the road, another awesome John Hartford tribute album.
Hell yeah. So we said a fair amount of artist names, but I think the main ones we're highlighting Sharon Jones. Check her out. She's a little more soul, R&B, some funk, and then John Hartford, and check out our buddies in Woodbelly.
Oh yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah. Um, so I suppose with that we'll move on to movies.
Yay!
There was a pretty interesting bit of movie news today where uh, the WB announced that they were going to release all of their 2021 film releases on HBO Max as well as in theaters simultaneously.
Oh
So
wow.
what that means is Wonder Woman 84, that's the Wonder Woman sequel. That's going to come out on Christmas in theaters and on HBO Max.
Oh, cool.
So I just sent you this photo of all the films that are going to be released. And I was just kind of
Oh,
seeing if any of these kind of stand out to you, like something you're looking forward to. While you're looking, I'll go ahead and list mine. The one I'm most anticipating is Dune, which is a sci-fi classic novel that David Lynch did kind of a weird David Lynch version of it in the 80s. And
yeah,
it's awesome, but it's not really the book.
yeah,
So I'm just like super excited to see Dune. The best way to describe it is it had a huge influence on Star Wars and other sci-fi, and it's basically like Star Wars for adults. It's
yeah,
very much about the politics and inner workings of these different families, and it's great.
yeah. I've heard very good things. I need to read it, and that was one that stuck out.
Hmm. There's also The Many Saints of Newark, which is a prequel to The Sopranos.
Oh,
I've been
cool.
waiting for that for years. Um, Other than that, there's some other good ones, but Mortal Kombat, I'm curious. I love the original so much that I'm like, all right, let's see what they do.
Yeah,
Matrix 4, I'm just like, what? Like, I'm just big question mark. Like, what's that going to be? I'm excited for it, but tentatively.
how many pills are there now?
5.
Ah,
They're
don't
all
take the
rainbow
Puce
pills,
peel.
and you take them all at the same time.
It's like some weird little like test you got to do now. It's
Yeah.
like the red, green, and the magenta. Got to leave out the cyan.
See, what you got to do is you got to take the pill to know that you're in the Matrix, but you stay in the Matrix because you know the real world isn't the real world, man.
You take a time release with your foot in hell.
Yeah. There's Space Jam: A New Legacy.
I was like,
I
I'm
th-
okay. I'm kind of excited for that. I guess I'd be.
I think that's LeBron James, but I could be wrong.
It makes me just want to watch the original to even remember what that movie is. I remember watching it all the time. I cannot, for the life of me, remember what happens now.
You don't remember them golfing with Bill Murray? And Bill Murray
See,
sneaks into the cartoon world with them.
that's coming. That seems right. Yeah, I faintly
One of my
recall that.
favorite lines from Space Jam was they're talking about Larry Bird, and I'm like, oh, let me see if I can remember how it goes. It's just like I don't know. It's like how was like Larry Bird that good? Like just being a white guy like that. He's like Larry's not white. Larry's clear.
uh,
It's hilarious to me. But
nice.
yeah, any other movie on that list standing out to you? Something that piques your interest?
Well, I actually don't. I kind of want to see the Tom and Jerry just because I saw the animation and I just want to see more of it. I don't know if I even want to see like the entire movie, but I do
Right.
want to at least see it, like part of it, just to see that what the animation looks like with it, and it might be good. You know, usually those kids movies are entertaining. I'd probably be
Yeah,
into it.
it's not usually my taste, but I do find that they've been doing really good with those animated films these days. If you're looking for substance, they've gotten really good at making good narratives in that
Yeah,
realm.
and if I'm sure they're like doing it so the parents that are watching are like not dying,
Sure.
so they
Yeah.
it's fun in that way. And I actually have watched like Monsters Inc. recently, and I think we talked about that a little bit. And yeah, that movie is I do enjoy watching that movie, just unabashedly. I'm sure a lot of people agree
What
on that one.
is your favorite Pixar movie?
Oh man, that's a toughie.
I'll go ahead and say it kind of varies, but for me, I really like Zootopia.
Yeah,
Um, I like the beginning of Up because it's very sad, and I thought that was ballsy.
uh huh,
Wally's pretty good, and then I liked, oh man, The Good Dinosaur, and I don't know if I liked it necessarily for the story. I just liked reading about how I think they got like a topographical map of Wyoming or something like that. and then they rendered it into their computers. So
Oh yeah.
all the scenery you see in that film is basically Wyoming. And then what they did was, to contrast that, they wanted to make the dinosaurs like extra cartoony so they'd stand out in a hyper realistic landscape.
Uh huh.
And I thought that was really interesting in terms of the technical side of filmmaking.
Yeah, that's cool.
One
Uh,
more on this list is the Suicide Squad. Um, James Gunn, I think, is his name. He was the director who did the Guardians of the Galaxy movies,
oh, cool.
and he was that dude who got fired from Marvel and Disney because of some inappropriate tweets.
Oh,
And so DC swooped in and was like, hey, come do the Suicide Squad.
there
He's
you
like,
go.
all right. And then he did that. And then Disney and Marvel was like, actually, we kind of want to hire you back.
Uh,
And it was kind of one of those instances of somebody getting canceled for some silly nonsense and them actually recognizing that was silly and turning it around and fixing it.
that's cool.
Yeah. So the Suicide Squad will be pretty different from the original, from what I understand. And I'm excited to see that.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds interesting. You know,
Or go ahead. Sorry.
I had to pull up some Pixar stuff to remember which all the movies they've made, and I'm actually
Sure.
I don't know if it's come out yet, or I forgot to look. The Soul, I think,
Okay.
came out
Yeah.
this year already. Oh yeah, it came out in October. Yeah, that one looks pretty good. I need to check that one out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Did you
think my
have a
favorite
favorite after
is
looking?
I think it is probably Monsters Inc. from the list I saw. I do like their shorts a lot. You know, I saw some of the short ones that I've
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed from other movies, like I think the one, I can't remember what movie it's from. Jerry's Game, the old guy playing chess. I
Yeah,
love
that's
that
a
little
classic,
short.
man.
Yep,
I think that opened up Toy Story when we
that's
were
what I'm
little.
thinking. Yep, that's what I was guessing.
Sweet.
Good times.
Any other movies you watched recently that really stood out?
I haven't watched any new ones. I've still been working through the Tarantinos and Coen brothers, so
Ah,
has
yes.
been quite enjoyable.
We're gonna have to do a deep dive on those.
Oh
And
yeah,
speaking of which, you're gonna be going on a trip, so I think
yes,
you'll make it back in time to do the episode with me. But it's kind of spurred an idea in my brain. I've been rewatching the old Batman movies,
yeah,
and I was just recognizing how much I love Batman as a character, and even though I prefer the Nolan Batmans, like I was just appreciating so much about the old ones that don't have some of the pretense that the new ones have to grapple with these days. Like everybody's so knowledgeable with comics and the lore of things like that that they
yeah,
sometimes don't like kick back and let a movie just be a movie. Like I would say that Batman Returns is my favorite of the first four Batman movies,
hmm,
but it's not a great Batman film. It's a wonderful Tim Burton movie that Batman characters happen to be in.
yeah.
And so what I realized is like I just got a lot of thoughts on every single one of these Batman films. So next week I'm thinking is just going to be a Batman episode and we're going to go off and
That
just
sounds good.
go hardcore into Batman. So I'll just leave that there and we'll get into your favorite Batmans and what you know about the character. We got a mutual buddy, Mike Patton, who's obsessed with Batman. I might reach out to him and ask for his top 10.
That'd be
But
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
With that, I suppose we could move on to our next segment,
Raise a
which,
glass.
yeah, we've done music, we've done movies. Um, I would say real quick, Cyberpunk 2077
77.
or what is it?
Yeah, that's right.
Are you excited about that? That's coming
Yeah,
out.
I am. I haven't like pre-ordered it or anything. I'm kind of waiting to have it come out and see what it looks like and make sure. But I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be like, yeah, I
Mm.
want it.
Yeah, that's one that our buddies have been paying attention to, and I'm kind of just waiting to see what they think about it.
Yeah, I want to. I just want to see what it's like, what the actual gameplay is like. So
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we're kind of doing a similar thing with Baldur's Gate 3 right now,
yeah,
where it's an early release, so there's still a lot of bugs they're working out. So we're kind of waiting to play it. Some
we
of our friends like to watch like the developmental stages of it, and I'm kind of more of a casual gamer myself, and I'm like, I'm okay to wait and let them kind of work out the bugs. But
yeah, nothing wrong with that. It's kind of funny they got more money out of us really because we're like, hey, we'll wait for you. We'll buy Baldur's Gate 2, get all warmed up.
yep, so that's what we ended up doing. It was $9.99 for a little bit, and that was a game that I tried to play when I was younger, and I was terrible at it, but I still thought it was awesome. Like the character creation and the world it was set in. It's highly based on Dungeons and Dragons, from what I understand, and
Yeah,
it's just it was a great game.
yeah.
So I'm excited to jump into that. Is there any other game you've been playing a lot lately worth recommending?
Well, I'm sure anybody that plays games probably knows it at least a little bit. I've been hooked on the Stardew Valley again.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that's been
I think
eating up a lot of my
Bobby
time.
Lee, the comedian, mentioned that in his podcast, Tiger Belly.
Oh yeah,
He's talking
nice.
about he had a phase there where he was like addicted to Stardew Valley.
That's
I could be wrong.
seriously
Don't quote me on that, but
it happens. The first time I played it, like it was crazy. Yeah, I had a problem. Like I kept being like, "Oh shit, it's 3 or 4 in the morning," like without meaning to at all. Like I just couldn't get enough. It happens because what basically I know we played it a little bit,
mm-hmm.
but it's like I think a one day in the game takes about 14 something minutes in real life.
Uh-huh.
And so you get to the end of the day and you build up all this stuff and you're like, oh, tomorrow I'm gonna get that thing, sweet. And then so you
Yeah.
want to like just one more day, gotta get that. And then while you're going to do that thing the next day, you get like a quest to go do this other thing, and you see this thing off to the side, you go pick it up, and it's like, oh, this, gotta go take it over to that place. And next thing you know, it's nighttime again, and you're like, oh man, well, I never got that thing done. Okay, one more
Yeah.
day, and then it's the next day in real life.
How comparable would you say Stardew Valley is to Minecraft?
It's like totally different, like game style. Like it's like a top-down, old school, more pixelated kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm. Almost like an
you
old
know,
Zelda.
yeah, you're not like breaking individual blocks. There's just like things spawn in the world. Yeah, it's more like it looks like old Zelda and Pokemon is kind of the
Mm.
game style. So yeah, things like spawn, like fruit and random things you go forage and trees grow and everything, and all the villagers are on a little schedule. So
Mm-hmm.
you can go follow them around, figure out what their schedule is and what they like and what they don't like. There's all these little interactions with people. Something kind of cool. Apparently, the developer has said there's still things in the game that nobody has found, like Easter eggs that haven't been discovered yet, which is unheard of. Like you should, I thought people could like get in the code and search it out, but apparently not this
Yeah.
game. There's still some stuff that people haven't found. It's just endless.
Yeah. I I think I'll have to give it another shot. I've noticed with my own gaming habits, I like violence and taking things over.
Yeah, it is
So
definitely
when I'm playing, and I'm like, when do I get to bash somebody over the head?
this is all about you do get to go kill monsters in the mine, but mostly
All
it's
right,
about just making your farm better so when your grandpa comes back, he's happy.
getting along with your
Well,
neighbors.
yeah, you're supposed to be nice to everybody in the town and just make as
Yeah,
much money as possible. You can pick capitalism or you can pick small local businesses. There's also that little
you can't pick
subtext.
fascism.
Not really. I guess you
No.
might be able to. You could try.
um, let's see here. We've also been playing a fair amount of Gunfire Reborn.
Yeah, I do feel like that game needs a shout out if we haven't done it. I love that game. I've
I don't
really
think
been
we
enjoying it.
have. It's a roguelite shooter. Has about 3 levels, all split into like 5 different sections, and
It's always
it's
different,
yeah.
randomly generated,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just yeah, it's really fun to that. I've never thought to play a roguelite like I'm just getting into that as a genre, but I never would have thought it would be so fun as a dungeon crawler. Just like see what's gonna happen this round. Maybe we
Yeah.
will die on the first world. Maybe we'll make it all the way to the boss and then die.
Well, and you could probably correct me on this. We'll maybe have to get Neil on to discuss more games in depth, but like we've also played the game Slay the Spire,
Yeah,
which is like a card deck roguelite, right?
yeah,
So like that's a lot of fun. That one I recommend just because if you're not the biggest gamer and you don't like to spend a ton of time, but say you have a partner who takes forever to get ready and you should have been ready to leave about 15 minutes ago, but it's actually 2 hours later,
yeah,
you could just sit at your computer, throw on Slay the Spire, and it's like a little more involved than like playing what's the card game? Solitaire.
yeah. It's fun.
And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's casual. You can play it while listening to your favorite podcast, like the Jacob Wayne Show, and
Yeah.
it's just nice. I find it pretty soothing to go through that one.
And I don't know if you heard, but that's coming out on iOS and Android in the near future. So you
Oh,
could be
okay.
playing it at the restaurant while you're
Yeah.
just playing all the
And the
time.
waiter's staring at you like, "Are you ready to order or what?"
Like, hold on, I gotta get Clash.
Easy. So yeah, I guess we might have to do another episode with Neil and just really dive deep on the gaming because as we're going through it, I'm like, oh, I guess we are playing a fair amount of titles
Yeah.
and we could get more in depth with them. But as far as video game news, that's all I've heard recently is Cyberpunk's coming out, and that seems to be the talk around the interwebs.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people have picked up Red Dead Redemption 2 because it's on sale for the autumn sale. So,
Yeah, I barely started that. I
oh,
just
nice.
recently wrapped up Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is really just part one. I have a feeling there's going to be like 4 parts or something, kind of like how there was 4 discs back in the day, but I guess we'll
Oh,
see.
nice.
And that was great. And they did that perfect balance between, helping you remember the old game and then adding new elements and letting you get more in depth with characters that they never fully developed. And yeah, it was great. That was the first game I've really sat down and dedicated to going from start to finish in quite a while.
Now the boys over at Nintendo should go do watch that, go play the old one and play the new one and learn, and then go try GoldenEye again, because their remake a little lackluster. It was fun, but just where I didn't get no callbacks to the old one.
Well, once again, this might be a discussion for our video game episode because I feel like we could go off on it. But it's like GoldenEye, um, Star Fox 64. Oddly enough, a lot of 64 games. Ocarina of Time. All I
Yeah,
want is that game updated, like with graphics.
that's true, and apparently that
And
is
maybe a
happening with
couple,
Golden.
like, maybe some gravity mechanics that are a little nicer, flow better. But don't add new little side games and,
Yeah,
like, I don't need it.
and it was on the Wii, so they added in like motion things, like oh no, shake your controller to get out of the thing, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, I don't like it. Ocarina of Time, I don't want you messing with it. I just want you to make it look prettier. Final
Hmm.
Fantasy VII, one of my favorite games of all time. It was okay to update it, I think. Like, it kind of needed it.
Yeah, yeah,
And maybe that's because of the nature of those types of RPGs, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question.
indeed. Well, apparently they are doing GoldenEye. People are working on that, and
You
it's
know what they
looking
need
pretty
to
good.
do?
What's that?
Mario Golf.
Yeah, hell yeah,
I want a new Mario Golf so bad.
that'd be awesome. Put it on PC.
Yeah.
The PGA Tour featuring Mario.
hmm
That sounds
Tiger
badass.
Woods is all hooking up with all the Mario characters. Peach, what are you doing?
uh,
I'll choke you out, Peach. That's like the least filthy thing I could think of from those Tiger Woods texts. Uh,
yeah, good times.
so, I think we have maybe about 3 more segments left. Kind of just going
Yeah.
through the segments this episode. Before we start on the last two, we'll do our usual kind of weird news segment. You had an interesting suggestion for a new one. But before we
Yeah.
get into that, let's hit the "What are you drinking this evening?" segment. We'll come up with a better title than that. But for
What you
now,
drinking?
this is all we got. That's the okay. We're doing it.
There you go. Pop the top.
Yeah. What are you drinking this evening, Kellen?
I'm drinking one of the prettiest beers. This is one of my favorite bottles.
Prettiest.
It's just really a great bottle. It's from Red Rock. It is a white rainbow. It's a white India Pale Ale, and it's like a rainbow bottle with a rainbow like little portrait with a unicorn that's all rainbow hair colored. It's like a white unicorn with like a rainbow mane, and it's like in a rainbow portrait against a rainbow background. So they're really hitting the rainbow on it. It's just cool looking big unicorn, and it's a
Say the
delicious
name of
beer.
it again. Just Red Rock what?
White rainbow.
White Rainbow. Okay.
Yeah, it is just delicious IPA. The white, I believe, is like kind of some Belgian spices in there. Maybe they use a Belgian yeast. Um, it's it's just delicious.
So once again, I'm kind of naive. Could you break down what a Belgium is?
Yeah, Belgian beers are like just have a specific yeast that's kind of peppery. They're usually a little higher in alcohol, not very hoppy. Like lots
Mm-hmm.
of they kind of get sweet the way they roast the malt. Yeah, the yeast can like live up to higher alcohol levels, so they usually get pretty alcoholic. But a white can also imply just like the little bit of spices they sometimes put in them. So
Hmm.
yeah, so this comes from Belgian wheat yeast, which is like a wheat beer. So six
Is
point
that because the
two.
wheat is in Belgium, or is that just where they
Just the
developed that
style
style?
of that Belgian wit is a different style than the German Hefeweizen. Just slightly, just tiny little differences that each country does. And I do think a
Yeah.
lot of it is probably like the like variety of grain or wheat, whatever they use. So
In German's more like a Hefeweizen or Kolsch.
yeah, that's another style different than a Hefeweizen. But yeah,
The Kolsch is a little bit lighter.
yeah, those are delicious.
Word. I'm learning a little bit by
There's just
bit.
so much. There's a lot of
Yeah, there
beer
is.
stuff to know.
But you just say it's kind of an IPA, pretty tasty, spicy.
Yeah, the Belgians gives it like I said, kind of a peppery. That's the word a lot of people use, and it's not like hot, and it doesn't taste like black peppery, but it's just that kind of nips at your tongue a little more than other beers. Yeah, it's really good.
Does it sit on you kind of heavy, or is it surprising kind of light?
This one is not doesn't taste like very 6.2 isn't very high anyways, but yeah, you can't
Yeah,
taste it. It's just tasty beer.
nice. Because as I get older, I think I definitely lean into lighter beers and Kolsch's and sours a bit more. Like I do like the darker beers, but I'm kind of like wolf when I drink them.
Yeah, so you had those ones from Avery Brewing, the like
Mm-hmm.
monk one, brother, whatever. What is it called? I don't remember.
Felonious monk
Oh no,
or
that's
no.
the different brewery, but they make one too that's like a reverend or something. But yeah, we had some
That
cans of it.
particular one doesn't ring a bell. I know there's the sour from them I like, and there's like the bug zapper, something like that. It's kind
Yeah,
of like a
that's a good one.
minty sour or something like
Yeah,
that.
the
What I'm
Reverend.
drinking. Oh, go ahead.
It's called the
The Reverend.
Reverend. That's the one. So I remember,
Okay.
yeah, we had some. I think when you came and stayed with my brother, there were some cans of
Hmm.
that you had brought up. So yeah, that's about 10% beer. That's a big one. That one sits heavy, but it is delicious, and it's really nice for being 10%. Usually beers that are 10% will just knock you on your ass. So
Right. One of my favorites from Utah is the Devastator.
yeah,
That's kind of like my go-to. Like, all right, I want to have two or three and be feeling it.
I can't
But I
even
think
drink
it's
those
pretty
anymore.
tasty. You
Yeah,
can't drink them anymore.
yeah, I had a rough night on the Devastators. They are delicious, and I can't drink
Yeah.
box now. Like they ruined box for me because I had one night drink a Devastator and it did its namesake, and I haven't been back.
Yeah. It's at least not as bad as Jaeger.
Oh no, which I also can't drink anymore.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody can drink Jaeger anymore.
And
That bottle
rum,
just it sits in there as like a it's like a totem
yeah,
or just like a warning to new alcoholics.
and even worse is the Utah made Jaeger. That
Ugh.
stuff, like, I just can't even smell that stuff. And it has nothing to do. I love that distillery. It's nothing against them. It's just theirs is just more potent Jaeger, probably. So it's
Hmm.
even worse.
Yeah. So I remember we get in that Avery for you. I didn't remember the brand as much, but the reason I got Avery is because it's a fairly local brewery. It was like somewhere in between Boulder and Fort Collins. We went there
Yeah.
when you visited, and it's a really good brewing company.
Yeah, awesome beers. That food is tasty too. That's some pretty good pub food in there. Some good
Hmm.
pretzels.
So definitely recommend that.
Indeed.
Um, Once again, I'm living in Colorado, so my drink options are a little more varied. I'm
Lucky.
currently sipping on a sparkling citrus water that is CBD infused. It is
Wonderful.
20 milligrams broad spectrum hemp extract and has zero sugar,
Oh,
which I put on the belly weight super easy. So I tend to do more like gin and seltzer water throughout most of the week. And then we're hitting the breweries, like, all right, start drinking beer. But
that's a
that's
good
what I'm
plan.
sipping on tonight is the sparkling CBD citrus water, which I had not heard of. I'd had THC infused sodas before, but I hadn't seen the sparkling water.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, I'll be
Sounds
honest.
relaxing.
I don't necessarily feel it that much, but I don't know if I've ever really felt CBD that strongly.
Yeah.
I think I'm just kind of a chill guy in general. So, like, oh, maybe it was working. I just didn't notice.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that's the whole point
it's
of it.
tasty.
Yeah, the seltzers are just the bomb. I don't know if you've seen these ones, but there's ones that came around up here called Spindrift seltzers, and they use a there's like a little bit. It's like 3% real fruit juice. Um,
Okay.
so there is a little bit of sugar in there, but not like not even close to as much as like a any kind of soda. Like still
Yeah.
way down in like the under 5 grams of sugar, and they are
There you
just
go.
delicious. They have a raspberry lime one that like I don't miss nothing. I don't miss the sugar. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
And they have a black
So
tea and lemonade one that's also quite nice.
there you go. I was gonna say with this, they have the citrus water. They have a hibiscus water,
Ooh,
and what was the other one? I think it was more lime. So yeah, I do one or two of those and mix it with a little bit of gin, like I do with my regular seltzer water. That's a nice night.
that sounds like a nice night.
Yeah. So
I remember when I came and visited, I had some of your gin and seltzer, and it was an enjoyable beverage.
yeah, it's not exactly for the flavor. It's just more crisp and refreshing. and it'll get the job done.
Yeah. I
And
don't.
then it's like,
I like tasting gin, so it kind of is a nice way to let the gin really shine through without being like on the tongue. You know.
well, I did notice that. I think there's other things that could be done to it. And if you mix drinks for a living, feel free to write us at fatcoachk@gmail.com.
Yeah,
But yeah, I noticed that I like gin more than vodka.
that's good,
Like
man.
I don't know. There's just something about it. It gave it that extra little bite that goes
Ah,
with the seltzer water a little better. I don't know
yeah.
how to explain it further than that, but
I've always liked gin. From the first time I was trying all my first ventures into alcohol. It's like, ooh,
oh,
gin's
grade
good.
school.
Yeah, I wish I was that cool. Mine was
In
like
fifth grade, you're a kid behind the Kimmo.
no, it was like 6 months before I turned 21. And the day I turned 21, I went to the liquor store and they didn't ID me. I was like,
Nice.
God damn it. But yeah, I enjoy gin. There's a Utah distillery that makes a Jackrabbit gin that is amazing. And they also make that same gin with a few less. They take out like the sage and the rose hips, I think, and they
Hmm.
barrel age it. So it's like half whiskey, half gin, and it's delightful.
Yeah, we gotta get some more of that ad revenue on this podcast so I can start investing in fancier gins.
All these companies were shouting out, or if you have a company and you're like listening and you're like, I should send
Yeah,
my gin, we'll shout it out for sure.
yeah, I'm more than willing to get down on anything like that.
Or if you like make any kind of garden trimming tools, we've mentioned that before. Still
It's
looking
true.
at you, Manscaped.
Yep. I mean, come on. You know, I want to be presentable when
Make
I'm
you
like,
move.
hey, would you like some gin and cock?
Uh,
So let's do it. What's this new segment you were talking about? Hit me with it.
so I just gotta, think of just a random occurrence segment we could have pop up every once in a while. It's just the old Jacob Wayne advice column. And
Hmm.
until we get some letters sent to fakoshka@gmail.com, uh, we get our own advice asked. I'm just going to steal some. So I stole somebody's advice column, and I'm just going to take the prompt and let you answer their problem.
Sure. And I mean, to be fair, we're talking about movies and video games. We're stealing some segments that have been done before, but
Yeah,
it is what it
this
is.
is
How
our
many
take on it.
podcasts are there about movies and music and all that?
Yeah,
If you're coming here, you're coming for that particular flavor of perspective. So
yeah. So you ready? Just gonna
yeah,
read. I'm
hit
gonna
me
read the
with
whole
it.
letter. It's pretty
Um,
long. It's not too long, but we'll
okay,
get
go
through it.
ahead.
So here we go. Dear Jacob Wayne.
I already like it.
Yeah. I have been on a series of dates with an established professional. Ooh. I got the feeling that she just viewed me as a money pinata, even though I imagine she out earns me. We are both late millennials. We established values of equality, family, etc., before we even met in person. We had a great time on our first date. The bill arrived, and there was no casual dance back and forth over who might pay. She never even looked in its direction. No worries. I got it. Second date, we also had a good time. The bill arrived, same thing. This time, I let it sit on the table for probably 15 minutes before I placed my card in the folder. We decided to meet again. This time, she asked if I would like to split the bill with her. This behavior confused me. I called her out. Are we on a date or are we friends meeting for dinner? She insisted we were on a date. I said, well, this is intriguing. You want to go Dutch on the third date, but not the first or second? Her reply was, yeah. Wanting to leave without creating conflict, I simply paid the bill and expected not to speak to her again. The following week, she invited me to brunch. Everything went fine, but hey, now I'm curious about what is going to happen when the check arrives. Sure enough, she doesn't even look at it. I let it sit on the table for 30 minutes before the waiter returned wanting to cash it out. I paid the bill and thanked her for inviting me out to pay for her meal. She looked confused, as if I had broken some unspoken rule of dating in which the man must pick up every check. I have been rejecting her calls and texts to get together ever since. I'm curious what you would do about this. From Would Like Equality.
All right, would like equality, Mr. Millennial.
Late millennial. But still,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's millennial.
Late millennial, so he's an exennial? Or no, he's more like almost Gen Z millennial.
Yeah, gentillennial.
Look, dude, maybe this is mansplaining or misogynistic or something like that. But if you're the dude, pick up the check. And if
Yeah,
she wants to contribute, go ahead.
let her.
But let her communicate that. If she doesn't
Yeah,
communicate it, expect to pick up the check every single time.
just be prepared for it.
And this is coming from a guy who I don't have a lot of money. I don't even have a car. I've never owned one. Like, I actually owned a car up until when I got my driver's license, and then the car broke down. I took it to some mechanic buddies. They fuddled around with it for a bit, and they're like, look, dude, we can't fix this. Most we can do is probably, like, take it to a demolition derby and get some money for that. And I was like, all right, do that. My parents were a little upset about that decision, but I was like, what are you going to do? They couldn't fix it.
Yeah,
And my main point being is that as much as things are equalizing and as far as the power dynamic and relationships between men and women and all that, there is still the kind of standard of if you're the guy, expect to pay for it. Not saying that you have to. If you don't want to, don't, and just expect to get kind of a weird look.
yeah,
Like, oh, really? Okay. But then there's like plenty of women I've gone on dates with where it's like, no, I got it. And they like go out of their way to be like, I got it.
oh, that's good.
Like,
That's fine.
and I'm like, okay, treat me, baby. And be okay with that too.
Exactly.
Like, you don't got to freak out about the dynamics of it all. And I don't know, I suppose the crux of it is that he's already getting weird and vindictive by like the third date, letting it sit there, but like not addressing it.
Yeah,
Like by the third date, just like get it and be like, you want me to get this one? And if she's like, what? Then you've communicated honestly, and now she's on her toes about, I thought you were just supposed to. And they're like, oh, okay, I thought, no big deal, I got it.
yeah,
And leave it at that. And let her wrestle with power dynamics and equality and this and that. He seems like he's vindictive about having to pay,
yeah.
even though he wants equality.
Exactly.
So he kind of sounds like a whiny douchebag man to me.
I know it sounds like whoever this lady is dodged a bullet.
Yeah,
That's
no kidding.
But I mean, and it's even if that is a deal, like at least wait till you're like actually like we're a thing, we're dating now. Then maybe bring it up if you like her, which it sounds like he's not that into it either, and that's probably good for her. So yeah,
Yeah. Just so that's what I'm saying. If she wants to be like, no, we're splitting this down the middle and you take this one, I take the next one, awesome. If she wants to cover for you, cool. If it's communicated honestly and directly. But if she's kind of just doing the old school thing, hey, if she kind of like winces when you don't pull the chair out for her, oh, she's kind of
huh.
old school. Expect to pay for every meal.
Yeah,
And that's just going to be the way it is. If you like that about her and you like her, play it old school.
yeah.
So yeah,
There you
I
go.
don't like Mr. on the edge
No,
Gen Z millennial. I think he's a little whiny.
kind of a douche.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's the thing, man. Like that's kind of why I don't even date that much, cuz I'm like, look, I'm saving this cash for the meals I want to eat by myself. I only got so much spending money.
Yeah,
If you want to hang out with me, it's for good conversation and some dick.
there you go.
That's really all I got to offer at the moment. I'm hoping to build some capital. I just recently tucked away a good chunk of money in savings. I feel like an adult, but I'm
Ooh,
not there yet.
always a good feeling, but you're starting.
Yeah, and if a lady's like, I want a little bit of this Jacob Wayne, I'm like, okay, let me take you to a meal, and I will pay for it. A very fancy Red Lobster dinner.
Oh, that actually is really expensive.
It kind of is,
Yeah.
but it's also like, for some reason, it's like I'm gonna take you to Red Lobster. She's like, okay.
I mean, I wonder if it's been long enough that Sizzler is fancy again, because that place is surprisingly reasonable.
No, I think it goes Sizzler, Olive Garden, Red Lobster if you're increasing in fanciness.
Oh, yeah.
And then after you get past Red Lobster and you're going to like that little nice new bistro in town,
Ray's
it's like
Romano's Ray
Razor
Romano's
Romano's
macaroni grill.
Sunken Fin. You're like, ooh.
Ooh. uh,
Yeah, and just pour your money out on the table and be like, just whatever that covers.
uh,
You remember that seafood joint we went to up in Seattle?
oh yeah, I think about it.
Like it was delicious, and it was amazing. But then I remember seeing those prices because that for some reason the first time I ate there it was like pretty reasonable. But then we
Uh,
got there, it's like, oh,
let's share one of those things.
yeah. And the guy comes up, is like, oh, you just want one of them? I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's just like, yeah, shit. But it was delicious.
Oh, that was very good.
And yeah, it sounds to me like late millennial Gen Z or would be like, oh gosh, like after he had to do that. You can't do that. You just pick up the check, enjoy the meal.
Yep. Move along.
Go wax your uncle's car if you need a little bit of extra cash.
Indeed.
All right. Should we move on
Good
to our last
advice.
segment?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right.
We got some weird news. Got some weird news.
Okay.
We are running low on weird news. I can do another roundup, but if you have some weird news in mind, you could send it to fakoshka@gmail.com.
Yeah, other than just the regular weird news, I don't got anything too particularly weird.
And this is even not weird. This is just kind of like an interesting, fun little story. So I'm fitting it in.
Okay.
So a kayaker who discovered a message in a bottle floating in a Delaware River was able to reunite the letter with the woman who wrote it 35 years ago. So I've never done that. Never tossed out the old message in a bottle, but apparently he found one and he saw it and he's like, oh, but this one has like there's a letter in it. So they got it out and it was uh, written by a lady and her cousin 35 years ago, August 1st, 1985, which
Hmm.
is crazy that that's that long ago now. Oh.
Yeah.
So it was just like described their family pets and asked potential future readers if they had any of their own, because like yeah, you're gonna get a reply from a message in a bottle.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you think when you're a kid. You think that bottle's gonna come floating on back. So yeah, they found
Magical.
them and yep, they still lived in the same place. So they found it, got it back to her, and yeah, it's kind of
Isn't that the
interesting story.
plot to like a Sandra Bullock, Keanu Reeves movie?
It sounds like it.
It was like the Lake House or something.
Yeah, I think it
I
is.
think they're. I might be getting the actor and actress wrong, but they put letters in their mail, and then the person would live in the same house or something, but it's like 30 or 40 years later, or maybe not even that. But they'd get the letter and then they'd write back, and they had this romantic exchange through time.
Wow.
And then I think what it ends up happening is one of them died, and but because of the letters, one of them's able to be there to keep like Sandra Bullock from getting hit by a car or some shit through the letter communications, and then they fall in love, and it's like, no.
Huh.
And it's like kind of an interesting concept,
Indeed.
and also cheesy as fuck. But like, therein lies the reality of like you find the letter in reality. It's like a letter from 1985. It's like, I like boys to men
You
and
have any
how many
cats?
dogs? It was just
Vagina poop.
vagina pig. So hey, Tom Cruise wrote this.
So this is a letter from Tom Cruise then. Okay.
FYI, that'll be our final note. If you haven't, go on YouTube and watch Sassy Justice.
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 It is just great.
Yep, South Park guys with some other dude, deep fake. It's wonderful. So look up Sassy
good.
Justice.
Indeed.
Oh, I guess we didn't do it, but we'll save it for another time. Was there any book updates, book club shit?
I don't got none, so we better save it.
Okay, we'll save it.
Sounds good.
Because I didn't read very much last week either.
Yep.
Cool. Well, it has been another lovely episode, and we're going to dive into Batman next episode.
I'm looking forward to it.
Hell yeah.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to The Jacob Wayne Show. If you would like to contact us, please write us at fakkoshka@gmail.com. That is FAKOSHKA@gmail.com. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Simply search The Jacob Wayne Show and it should pop right up. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. Please write us. It helps add content to the show and makes the show even better for you, the listener. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to